Chapter 7 of Masters of Space. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by R.J. Davis. Masters of Space by Edward Elmer Smith, a.k.a. E.E. Doc Smith, and Edward Everett Evans. Translated by Robert Conatetti, Stephen Blundell, and the online distributed proofreading team. Chapter 7. Knowing that he had done everything he could to help the most important investigations get underway, Hilton turned his attention to secondary matters. He made arrangements to decondition Javo, the number 2 Oman boss, whereupon that worthy became Javi and promptly bumped the Oman who had been shadowing Carnes. Larry and Javi, working nights, deconditioned all the other Omans having any contact with BuSci personnel. Then they went on to set up a routine for deconditioning all Omans on both planets. Assured at last that the Omans would thenceforth work with and really serve human beings instead of insisting upon doing their work for them, Hilton knew that the time had come to let all his BuSci personnel move into their home's ground. Everyone, including himself, was fed up to the gozzel with spaceship life, its jam-packed crowding, its flat reprocessed air, its limited variety of uninteresting food. Conditions were especially irksome, since everybody knew that there was available to all, whenever Hilton gave the word, a whole city full of all the room anyone could want, natural fresh air, and, so the Omans had told them, an unlimited choice of everything anyone wanted to eat. Nevertheless, the decision was not an easy one to make. Living conditions were admittedly not good on the ship. On the other hand, with almost no chance at all of solitude, the few people who had private offices aboard were not the ones he worried about. There was no danger of sexual trouble. Strictly speaking, he was not responsible for the morals of his force. He knew that he was being terribly old-fashioned. Nevertheless, he could not argue himself out of the conviction that he was morally responsible. Finally, he took the thing up with Sandra, who merely laughed at him. "How long have you been worrying about that, Jarv?" "Ever since I okayed moving aground the first time. That was one reason I was so glad to cancel it then." "You were slightly unclear, a little rattled. But which factor? The fun and games, which is the moral issue, or the consequences?" "The consequences," he admitted, with a rueful grin. "I don't give a whoop how much fun they have, but you know as well as I do just how prudish public sentiment is, and Project Theta Orionis is squarely in the middle of the public eye." "You should have checked with me sooner and saved yourself wear and tear. There's no danger at all of consequences, except weddings, lots of weddings, and fast." "Weddings and babies wouldn't bother me a bit, nor interfere with the job too much, with the Omans and nurses. But why the fast, if you aren't anticipating any shotgun weddings?" "Female psychology," she replied with a grin. "Aboard ship here, there's no home atmosphere whatever. Nothing but work, work, work. Put a woman into a house, though, especially such houses as the Omans have built, and with such servants as they insist on being, and she goes domestic in a really big way. Just sex isn't good enough anymore. She wants the kind of love that goes with a husband and a home. And 9 times out of 10, she gets it. With these BuSci women, it'll be 10 out of 10. "You may be right, of course, but it sounds kind of far-fetched to me." "Wait and see, chum," Sandra said with a laugh. Hilton made his announcement and everyone moved aground the next day. No one, however, had elected to live alone. Almost everyone had chosen to double up, the most noteworthy exceptions being 12 laboratory girls who had decided to keep on living together. However, they now had a 20-room house instead of a one-room dormitory to live in, and a staff of 20 Oman girls to help them do it. Hilton had suggested that Temple and Teddy, whose house was only 100 yards or so from the Hilton Carnes bungalow, should have supper and spend the first evening with them. But the girls had knocked that idea flat. Much better, they thought, to let things ride as nearly as possible exactly as they had been aboard the Perseus. A little smooching now and then on the queue, strictly tea. But that's all, darling. That's positively all, Temple had said after a highly satisfactory 10 minutes alone with him in her own gorgeously private room, and that was the way it had to be. Hence, it was a stag inspection that Hilton and Carnes made of their new home. It was very long, very wide, and for its size, very low. 4 of its 5 rooms were merely adjuncts to its tremendous living room. There was a huge fireplace at each end of this room, in each of which a fire of 4-foot-long fir cordwood crackled and snapped. There was a great hi-fi tri-di with over 100 tapes, all new. Yes, sirs, Larry and Javi spoke in unison. The players and singers who entertained the masters of old have gone back to work. They will also, of course, appear in person whenever and wherever you wish. Both men looked around the vast room, and Carnes said, all the comforts of home and a couple of bucks worth besides. Wall-to-wall carpeting 1.5 inches thick, a grand piano, easy chairs and loafers and davenports. Very fine reproductions of our favorite paintings, and statuary. You said it, brother. Hilton was bending over a group in bronze. If I didn't know better, I'd swear this is the original DeHaven Dance of the Nymphs. Carnes had marched up to and was examining minutely a 2-by-3-foot painting in a heavy gold frame of a gorgeously auburn-haired nude. Reproduction, hell! This is a duplicate. Lawrence's Innocent is worth 20 million wogs, and it's sealed behind quad armor glass in prime art. But I'll bet wogs to Wiggles, the prime curator himself, with all his apparatus, couldn't tell this one from his. I wouldn't take even one Wiggles worth of that. And this Laughing Cavalier and this Toledo are twice as old and twice as fabulously valuable. And there are my own golf clubs. Excuse us, sirs, the Oman said. These things were simple because they could be induced in your minds. But the matter of a staff could not, nor what you would like to eat for supper, and it is growing late. Staff? What the hell has the staff got to do with... House staff, they mean, Carnes said. We don't need much of anybody, boys. Somebody to keep the place shipshape is all. Or, as a deluxe touch, how about a waitress? 1 housekeeper and 1 waitress. That'll be finer. Very well, sirs. There is one other matter. It has troubled us that we have not been able to read in your minds the logical datum that they should in fact simulate Dr. Bell's and Dr. Blake. Huh? Both men gasped, and then both exploded like one 12-inch length of primacord. While the Omans could not understand this purely Terran reasoning, they accepted the decision without a demurring thought. Who, then, are the 2 it's to simulate? No stipulation, roll your own, Hilton said, and glanced at Carnes. None of these Oman women are really hard on the eyes. Check. Anyone who wouldn't call any one of them a slurpy dish needs a new set of optic nerves. In that case, the Oman said, No delay at all.